Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Marty Van Ravensway, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. We got a big agenda today. We'll begin with our invocation. Ron Bertel from the Auditor's Office will deliver our invocation, and please remain standing for the pledges.
If you all bow with me in prayer. Holy God, our Father, our Creator, we pause as we begin our meeting today to honor you and ask you to work in our midst today. We are thankful to live in a country that honors you, even as we look forward to the National Day of Prayer this Thursday. I pray that as a nation we will continue to trust you, depend upon your power and love, and honor you. We are mindful today of the work being done by the public health officials and ask your divine guidance and power to allow them to make wise choices, that especially this current outbreak of influenza will be contained and stopped in its track. Help them to protect your people. We are also mindful that today is a day we have chosen to honor the family of county employees for their service. We thank you for the blessings, these men and women. We thank you for blessing these men and women with a heart of service, and we pray your continued blessing on them as they go about their daily task. We also take special note of the lifelong contribution of Mr. Curry. We thank you for that blessing, and we pray your blessings on his family and all who grieve his passing. Help us all have the same heart as your servants Joseph, Daniel, and David, as they served in government roles seeking to serve to your glory and in keeping with your principles and will. And by doing so, may we enjoy the great success that they enjoyed by the power of your hand, even in spite of tremendous obstacles. Help us to know your will and give us the power and courage to do it. And finally, we ask that you hold back the rain today until our activities of this day honoring our employees have been completed. Thank you for your love and mercy and grace. I ask all these things in the name and authority of Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Ron. Mr. Manius, agenda announcement.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have several announcements this morning for the court. First, as it relates to the agenda, under Facilities Department, item 8D1 and 2, we're going to ask that we hold those items. Also, under Purchasing, item 8G4, that's bid 2009-071. We're going to ask that we hold that for 1 week. Also, members of the court, when we come to the H1N1 influenza update later on in the agenda, besides the update that we have from Public Health on that particular item, we're also going to ask that the court pass an order which extends the emergency declaration that Judge Woodley had signed earlier. There's a requirement that declaration stay in effect till 7 days, and then it is renewed by action of the Commissioner's Court. So you have an action item in your red folder. I believe those with electronic files, and I think we've already placed that in the electronic file also. And then, Your Honor, members of the court, just to remind you, and Ron did also, that this today is Employee Appreciation, and we have activities out on the front lawn of the administration building. I believe that our program is to start at 12 o'clock. Thank you, Your Honor.
I believe our emergency management, Melissa, is going to guarantee us that we're not going to have rain before 1 o'clock.
I'm going to stick with the gentleman that Ron asked.
Excellent. You know, last week we marked the passing of our district attorney, longtime district attorney, and really friend and family member to Tarrant County, Tim Curry. He had served as district attorney for 36 years. His family is here today, and we're very glad to have them, as well as Mayor of Fort Worth, former judge, Mike Moncrief, who sat in this seat for many years. Mike, we appreciate very much the comments that you made last week, and we appreciate you being here today to honor the family. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Johnson. He and Tim were obviously very, very close, and I know that he lost a very close friend last week. So, J.D., I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Glenn, and let me apologize first for my voice. I don't have the swine flu, but I think it's because I've got to go to Austin this afternoon. But I want to tell you, Tim was a very close friend of mine, very good friend. We hunted together, we golfed together, we socialized together, we had some good times. And I went to Tim in 1985 after I was elected, and I told him, I said, Tim, I would appreciate if you would try to keep me out of jail. I'm real bad about helping old people and kids as far as I can, and I want to help. I want to continue helping them, doing everything I can for them. But if I go too far, please stop me. Don't let me go to jail. Well, in conversations and years after that, Tim told me, he said, well, you never have broken the law, but you've bent the hell out of the rules. And I want to tell you, I continue to do that for the old and for the young, and for those that can't take care of themselves, and that's the way Tim Curry operated. If it was close to being against the law with something, he would find a way to legally make it happen when it comes to those folks that can't help themselves. And I really appreciate that friendship that I had with Tim. And I want to share with you, if I can, a story about April the 1st of this year. This court gave me the privilege to go talk to Tim about the possibilities of naming this Justice Center after him. So I went out, I set it up with Jan, and I went out on April the 1st and sat down with Jan and Tim in their living room, and we visited for a couple hours. But in the process, Tim, knowing how I am about bringing things to him, I brought it up like this. I said, Tim, I'm thinking about doing something, and before I do, I want to ask you if it's legal. And he sort of looked at me like he usually did, you know, and so he said, well, what have you got on your mind? And I said, well, Tim, I'm thinking about naming the sub-courthouse out there in Lake Worth, the J.D. Johnson sub-courthouse. What do you think about that? Tim sort of dropped his head and shook it a little bit like that, and finally looked up with that grin he gets, and he said, well, if you think you can fade the heat. And I said, Tim, that's an April Fool's joke. This is April Fool. But what I'm about to tell you is not an April Fool joke. The Commissioner's Court is going to name the Justice Center the Tim Curry Justice Center, and it's already a done deal, but I wanted to make sure that it was legal for us to do that. And he said, you really don't need to do that. And I said, Tim, it's a done deal. It's going to happen. And so finally we got off of that subject, but we had a good conversation about it, and I think Jan helped him a little bit adjust to the thought that it was going to be named after him. After I left, we've had some conversations, but I don't know of a person in this world that deserves it more than our friend and our district attorney, Tim Curry. So, if I could ask the judge to read the resolution into the record so we can make this official, then we'll get started with the naming.
Whereas whereas Tim Curry was first elected as Tarrant County District Attorney in November 1972 and has served in that position for over 36 years with rare distinction and honor, having been re-elected for 9 subsequent terms in office, and whereas immediately after his election in 1972, he put into place measures to ensure that persons guilty of criminal activity were vigorously prosecuted, but also to ensure that charges were not brought until clear evidence was presented demonstrating guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, resulting in a remarkable record of both protection of the public as well as protection of the innocent. And whereas Tim Curry has brought innovation to the operations of the office, including the institution of a county-wide electronic case filing system for all the law enforcement agencies of the county, the first of its kind in the state of Texas, the first victims assistance programs in Texas, which has since been used as a model in many other prosecutors' offices in the state, the first in the 1970s to recognize the devastating effect on lives of driving while intoxicated, implementing even an ever stronger and more effective measures to firmly but fairly prosecute those who offended, resulting in the recognition of the office as one of the leaders in the state of Texas in this regard, and started one of the first dedicated gang units in the state of Texas in the 1980s to address the growing scourge of violent youth and juvenile criminal activity. And whereas he has engendered the respect of the entire law enforcement community for his selfless leadership of the Tarrant County Criminal District Attorney's Office, and whereas Tim Curry routinely gave prosecutors throughout his career unwavering support, with his customary advice being to do whatever is right, engendering respect and support not only among career prosecutors, but the many law enforcement agencies served by the office. And whereas Tim Curry throughout his career has earned the respect of his fellow attorneys, who honored him with the coveted Blackstone Award in 2007, the first and only time a Blackstone Award has ever been given by the Tarrant County Bar Association to a prosecutor in its 46-year history, reflecting the high esteem in which he is held in the Tarrant County legal community. And whereas in 2001 he received the Oscar A. Searle Memorial Award for Distinguished Service to the Profession from the Texas District and County Attorneys Association, the highest honor given by the statewide Association of Texas Prosecutors. And whereas the Tarrant County Commissioners Court wishes to pay homage and respect to Tim Curry for his years of distinguished service to the citizens of Tarrant County and the state of Texas, and to provide a permanent tribute to his stature as the finest prosecutor in Texas, now therefore be it resolved and ordered that henceforth the Tarrant County Justice Center be named the Tim Curry Criminal Justice Center in his honor, and that appropriate steps are immediately taken to implement this order and resolution, in witness whereof we have heretofore set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 5th day of May, 2009.
We couldn't officially do anything with the signage at the court's building until we took this action here today in court, but I can tell you that the wheels are moving in that direction, and we're going to have one heck of a celebration down at that Justice Center once that's done. And one other thing, I got a note that Mr. Curry also started the first child abuse investigation unit in the state of Texas in 1981, staffed with 3 investigators working with Child Protective Services, a model which was and is now being used statewide. There's so many things that he did do that we couldn't get everything in one resolution, but I did want to mention that one because that's very dear to a lot of our hearts up here. So with that comment, I would move approval of this resolution.
Second. We're all seconded, so it's going to be a motion in 4 seconds. And with that, any other discussion? Please vote. The motion passes unanimously.
We're honored this morning to have Jan Curry, the widow of Tim Curry, Cullen Curry, the son of Tim, one who used to work with me, in fact, Jennifer Best, stepdaughter, Brennan Best, grandson, Clary Curry, sister-in-law, and because of illness, his daughter Beth Spencer and her two sons, Tim's grandsons, Jack and Griffin, were not able to attend this morning. But Jan, if you and your group would meet me at the podium. I am honored to present this resolution to you and to be part of naming the Justice Center after Tim, and would welcome any comments that you or any family member would like to make to the court.
Oh, thank you so much. On behalf of the family, we are so terribly honored, and it'll be such a legacy for our grandchildren and for his children. I'm sorry, but this just meant, and it really meant a lot to Tim. We did have some conversations after J.D. was there, and I've got to tell you really quickly what he said. He said, "Why are they going to name a building after me, Jan?" And I said, "Tim, they want to do it so you can," I said, "it's such an honor, and it'll be such a legacy for you to have with your children and our grandchildren." He said, "Well, I guess that's going to be okay." But he really was very, very pleased and very, very honored. And I know that if he were here today, he would probably just say thank you, as he usually did.
Just the one comment that I would add is that Tim was, he let things happen in his department. He was always in control. And one of the parts of the story that Jan and J.D. both relayed is that, one of the things that Tim did wonder about this, he said, normally those things are only given to folks after they passed away. I think he's still in control. We're going to miss him. And we're going to miss the way he's handled it. As I had mentioned before, he came to work every day to do the job and to do the work for the people. And he didn't get involved in the politics of it. And again, I think as we are about to recognize other employees, it is so characteristic of, I think, the folks who represent and who work for Tarrant County, and that's they come here to do a job, to serve the people of Tarrant County, and that's their top priority. And Tim was the real pinnacle to look for as an employee who demonstrated that over the 36 years he was with us. So again, thank you all very, very much for being here today. We're going to move, but before we get into the employee recognition, I also want to recognize Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Johnson has served not only this court extremely well in all those years he's been on the court, but he has also served we were talking about before we got up here who had seniority in years, and also who was the oldest, I think. He won them both. and JD won both accounts from that standpoint. But in addition to serving Tarrant County, JD has also given yeoman service to the rest of the state of Texas, not only in the West Texas Commissioner and Judges Association, of which we're a member, but also the Texas Association of Counties. And this last week, they honored him with what is named the Sam Seal Award. Now, Sam Seal is a past executive director of the Texas Association of Counties, was for many years, I believe, was a county judge, actually, before taking that position, but has served for many, many years the state. And I want to read a congratulatory resolution for Commissioner Johnson. Whereas the West Texas County Judges and Commissioners Association, a 118-county organization representing commissioners' courts across West Texas, created an award recognizing officials for outstanding service to the association as exemplified by Sam D. Seal, who had a 35-year career in county government, holding many leadership positions. And whereas at the 80th Annual West Texas County Judges and Commissioners Association Conference in Abilene, the 2009 Sam D. Seal Award was presented to Precinct 4 County Commissioner J.D. Johnson for his service as President of the Texas Association of Counties and immediate past President of both the West Texas County Judges and Commissioners Association and the County Judges and Commissioners Association of Texas. And whereas J.D. Commissioner Johnson is the second recipient, only the second recipient of this award, now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby commend Precinct 4 County Commissioner J.D. Johnson for his outstanding service to the Texas Association of Counties, the West Texas County Judges and Commissioners Association, and the County Judges and Commissioners Association of Texas that has led to the presentation of this 2009 Sam D. Seal Award. In witness whereof, we have heretofore set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 5th day of May 2009, and I'll move its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. And I do have a plaque here that I would like to present to you, Commissioner Johnson, and again, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you and the court. I appreciate this very much. Thank you.
This is, okay, that's the plaque you received from them. Here's the plaque you received from us. So thank you again. Thank you, Commissioner Van Ravensway, for pointing that out. I know, it's just... Now we get to move to, again, one of my favorite points on the agenda, and that's the employee recognition.
Your Honor, you want to go back to the approval of the minutes?
If I must. We have the minutes that we have to approve. So if I could get a motion on the approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of April 28th.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Okay, is it all right for me to go ahead with employee recognition at this point in time? Anybody else?
Go ahead.
This really is a favorite time of mine. This month we had 17 employees who had 20 years plus service. As I have often commented, sometimes I'm a little late in making those calls. The last call was made about 8 p.m. last night, but we got there. Tricia was the last one, and we'll recognize her as we move through the agenda. But what I want to do is we'll start off with the 5-year category, and as I call your name or close facsimile thereof, please stand and then remain standing until I finish that group, and then we'll recognize y'all as a group. And we'll begin with our 5-year employees. The first is David Addington, Precinct 2 Maintenance.
He's working.
Talton Campbell, Sheriff Confinement. Samuel Kaufman, Sheriff Confinement. Kimberly Davis, Sheriff Confinement. Sherry Debo, Domestic Relations. Crystal Drampkin, Public Health.
I think she's working.
She's probably been working for a long time. Danette Hamilton, County Clerk. Marcella Herrera, CSCD. It sounds close. Clement Lascelle, Sheriff Confinement. Jerry Martinez, Sheriff Courtesy Patrol. Frank Minikin, Juvenile Services. Mary Ovalito. Yeah, y'all laugh.
You got it.
I got close. Texas Agri-Life Extension. Susan Pruitt, District Attorney's Office. Sean Shelton, Sheriff Confinement. Jason Slonaker, Elections. Charlie Smith, Precinct 3, Maintenance. William Stevens, Public Health. So you can say that didn't look like William. I thought I knew him. I thought I knew him by a different name. Kelly Stevens, CSCD. Tony Waters, Sheriff, Confinement. And Gary Waters, Sheriff, Confinement. These are our 5-year employees. Let's give them a big hand. Thank you all very much. Next are our 10-year employees. Our first 10-year employee is Christopher Bell, Juvenile Services. Elisa Burns, Juvenile Services. Sylvia Demas, Public Health. Joy Hall, Juvenile Services. Sheila Johnson, Precinct 1, Maintenance.
Working.
Shannon McFarland, Sheriff, Warrants. Bobby Mills, District Attorney's Office. And Jay Singleton, Administrator's Office.
Working.
I've asked him to go do something real quick.
Let's give our 10-year employees a big hand. Now we'll recognize our 15-year employees. Carol Alexander, CDC number 1. Carol. Dennis Bowden, Sheriff, Confinement. Yes. Harold Dome, Information Technology. Harold. Sarah Haddock, Public Health. Judge Steve King. Welcome, sir. It's good to see you. Probate Court number 1. Joanne Martin, Juvenile Services. James Moody, District Attorney's Office. Malia Toussignon, Tax Office. Did I get anywhere close to that one? Close.
Don't let him off.
David Van Hook, Juvenile Services. David. Matthew Walker, Sheriff, Confinement. These are our 15-year employees. Let's give them. And now for our 20-plus years, as I said earlier, I make a phone call to them. We talk over the phone, and then I try to, again, just give them a little bit of additional special recognition for the many, many years of service that they've provided to Tarrant County. Our first 20-year employee is Reggie Butler. There's Reggie. Reggie is a court reporter for the 96th District Court. Started out in the County Court at Law number 2 as the court reporter. When I called him yesterday, he was right in the middle of a trial. So, he was focusing on the trial, and I was sitting here asking him a bunch of questions. And so, he just remembered back, again, as many folks do, I kind of catch them off guard with that. I get that little laugh sometimes. That means that they're not going to tell me what they're thinking. But when I asked him what he liked most, he said, it's really a great place to work, and that, like many folks, the benefits and the security of the job are something that's very important. He said that there's been a lot of changes over the last 20 years, and it's been interesting to watch and to be a part of that. Reggie, we appreciate very much the 20 years you've given to Tarrant County. Thank you. Next is Jerry Davis with the Sheriff's Office, the confinement area. Now, Jerry works the 11 to 7 shifts, so we need to thank Jerry for showing up here this morning because he just got off work. And he went home, got cleaned up, and then came back, so we appreciate very much you doing that. Started off, I guess, in the Cold Springs area, has worked at all of the different jails, is now in the booking and ID area in the Correction Center. asked him what he liked most, he said that the county had really been good to him and that he would recommend it to anyone who was looking for a career path. He enjoys the benefits. He said there's the one thing about the Sheriff's Department, there's a lot of avenues for advancement, and that the people are just great to work with. And I tell you what, Jerry, we appreciate very much the 20 years you've worked with the folks in Tarrant County. Next is Homer Hanna with the Sheriff's Department in the confinement area. There's Homer. Started out in the Belknap facility and then moved to the Correction Center and now out at the Cold Springs area. When I asked him what he liked most, again, it was that he had an opportunity to meet a lot of great people and interesting people. That it was a real challenge of dealing with different things on every day. It was not ever the same type of a deal. He works, again, he's another one that works kind of the evening shift. He works from 2 p.m. to 11, and he said he's really always enjoyed doing that. That it's not that it's not as much of a routine, and he has really enjoyed that. When I asked him if there was anything else he wanted me to mention, he said working for the county had really been a great experience for him. And I tell you what, Homer, we appreciate the experience that you've enjoyed, but also the public service that you've given to us over the last 20 years. Thank you very much. Next is Donna Harris, 20 years. She works as the sheriff in the labor detail. Started off in the clerk's office and then moved to the sheriff's office in 1990. Started as kind of the medical secretary and then went to the correction center on the 13th floor. Then in 1994 she went to the labor detail and has been there ever since. When I asked her about her more memorable moments, the helicopter crash was one that had obviously left an impression, as it did really, I think, on everybody, not only in the Sheriff's Department, but throughout the county. She also said that Sheriff Carpenter had made a memorable impression, but she just stopped right there. She didn't elaborate, which is probably maybe a good thing. When I asked her what she liked most, she said, I love the people that I have a chance to work with. Likes to work with the labor detail because it gives her a chance to do community service. And throughout the conversation, what I really felt and what I got from her is how much she loves that community service. She really has a passion for that. And because of our labor detail does so much for so many different organizations, that's something that she really enjoys doing. She said that the county had been very good to her and that she appreciated very much the job security. And I tell you what, Donna, we appreciate the 20 years you've given to Tarrant County. Thank you very much. Next is Kathy Hopper in the tax office. She said she probably wasn't going to be able to make it. She is getting ready to sell her house, and so she says, I've kept putting it off and kept putting it off, and now I've really got to get in there and get it done. So she had already taken off today before she realized that we're going to do this. She started out in the Northwest location. Actually, she's been here 25 years. She had been with the county for 5 years, thought there was something better out there, left, and after 5 years realized there wasn't and came back. So she's one of these ones that we're recognizing 20 years, but she's served with the county for 25. And so if you see Kathy, tell her congratulations and thank her for her 25 years of service to Tarrant County. Next is Nancy Hunter, Sheriff, North Patrol. There's Nancy. Started out at the Belknap Jail. And then from there transferred out to the constable's office, I moved Constable Jack Allen, to basically take over an environmental grant program and to kind of head that up and to oversee it. And then went back to the Sheriff's Department and moved into the patrol area. When I asked her about her more memorable moments, she was the first female to work a male floor in Tarrant County, and we talked about this, and we believe that it was a statewide experiment at that time to see if a female could handle a male floor. And she said, you know, they tested me, but after I basically took away everything they had, TVs and everything else, they decided that they better go ahead and listen and quit testing. When I asked her what she liked most, she said, I love the patrol division. I get to know all sorts of different people, and it's the fact that I get to work with people in a particular area. When she moved back over, again, she was kind of headed up this environmental program, and when she moved back over to the Sheriff's Department, that program basically was about to be canceled. And someone said, well, you know, she said, well, I wonder if the sheriff would, you know, think about taking up the program. And somebody said, well, he's got an open door. Just go in there and talk to him about it. And she said, you know, I did. I walked into his office and sat down with him and explained to him what the program was and what it had done. And she said, sure enough, after hearing her out, the sheriff agreed to take over the environmental program. And as a result of that, people kept their job. And I think, again, that just shows that I hope all of our folks, that all of our department heads, that all of our elected officials have that open door and are available when employees want to come in and talk about ideas and to go through that particular process. And Nancy, I'm glad you did that. And Sheriff, I'm glad that you took the time to listen to her, and it obviously saved some folks their jobs. So, Nancy, we want to thank you for the 20 years of service you've given to Tarrant County. I kind of had the sheriff nervous. I told him he needed to stay. I was going to talk to him. I didn't tell him whether it was good or bad. So, our next is Jeanette Johnson in Human Resources. There she is. Started 2 days after her graduation from college. Been with us for 20 years. Started out as a monitor in the JTPA program. Then moved up through the workforce development, and I guess for a long time worked primarily with Lockheed and Bell in their workforce programs. Then when the workforce separated and was she transferred over to the HR area. And has been there for a couple of years. I guess had been there for a couple of years, and then worked a little bit in the housing area, and then was back into the HR program. When I asked her what she remembered most about the 20 years, she mentioned starting the one-stop centers, and then also the weekend that Hurricane Katrina hit. There was so much, folks, there was so much work to be done, and it was just such an amazing weekend to watch folks pick up the mantle and really get in there. It was also about that time that Gerald passed away, and so we lost a great employee at the same time that we were really trying to do what I think he would have been most proud of, is help the people that were in need of help. When I asked her what she liked most, it was all the different opportunities, the people she'd had a chance to work with, the opportunity to work in the various roles, and then the compassion that she sees in the people who work with Tarrant County. Really, I guess you started off working in the county clerk's office when you were a freshman in college, and worked as a counselor in the workforce development summer programs for a while. So Jeanette has worked with the county long before she actually started working with the county, and we appreciate very much the 20 years of service you've given to us. Next is Harold Poche, Information Technology. Harold started out as in the IT area as an IT operator, then I guess did a lot of the cabling and then worked with the network in the mainframe area. When I asked him what his more memorable work was, he said really the whole working of the IT department and just seeing that the changes that have occurred over the 20 years that he's been with us have been pretty spectacular. He said the people he has a chance to work with are great, and as a result, he really gets to work with people all over the county. And then he really talked about what a great atmosphere that Tarrant County has and lets people, as they work and doing their work, it's just a great atmosphere in which to work. Harold, we want to thank you very much for the 20 years of service you've given us. Okay, the last of our 20-year employees is Frank Rehas in the Sheriff's Courts area. Started out and worked in the jail for 11 years and then moved into the judicial area and now runs the security machine on the east door of our new Family Law Center. When I asked him of his more memorable moments, again, it was one of many changes over the years. When I asked him what he liked most, it was said, basically it was the people that he had a chance to run into and talking with them and helping them. He said, if somebody asks me a question about where something is, I really try to have the answer so that I can maybe help them a little bit because most of the folks that are coming in there are struggling. And so he said, if I don't know, I immediately afterwards go and try to find exactly where that is so that in case that question comes up again, I know the answer. Frank's been with us for 20 years, but Frank came to us after 30 years in the Marine Corps and after a year of working under Chief Knowles over in the Dallas jail. Now, he didn't take him long to figure out that Dallas wasn't where he wanted to be. So, there was just that 30 years in the Marine Corps, that's great. 20 years at Tarrant County was just that 1 year he kind of went astray. But Frank, we appreciate greatly the service you've given not only to the citizens of Tarrant County over the past 20 years, but to the people of America for the 30 years of service in the Marine Corps as well. So thank you very, very much. Now, next is Tricia Hansen, CSCD, 25 years. Oh, come on, Tricia. She was my last person to get a hold of. Now, she wasn't absolutely sure she was going to be able to get away. She started out as a backup in the misdemeanor court area as a probation officer. She said she had seen a lot of change in the last 25 years. The building of the Arlington Sub-Courthouse, I guess prior to that time, the probationers in Arlington, they weren't seen in Arlington. They had to actually go someplace else.
That's correct, and they're still all over the place because where they are in Arlington does not, it's still not big enough.
Mm-hmm. It was her first job out of college, and, there's several people from CSCD that we're recognizing here today, and I tell you what, you stop and you look back and you think that's got to be a hard job. But the folks that go to work over there, they're a close family, and they build a camaraderie. I mean, she said, I can't ever imagine working anyplace else. And so if you see Tricia, tell her how much we appreciate the 25 years that she gave, or that she's given to Tarrant County. And she did make the comment. She said, I don't have any plans of retiring anytime soon. So she's hoping to be here many more years. And I tell you what, 25 years over there doesn't get you much in the way of seniority, but I'm fixing to recognize 3 for 30 years of service. The next is one of the first of the 3 that I'm going to recognize, and that's Rick Barbina. 30 years of service. He's another one that I had made a note that I'm going to try, but he wasn't sure he was going to be able to make it, and it doesn't look like he was. There were 3 of them that started the same week. He started in probation. He started as a field officer in the Northwest office. He's now the ops manager for court services and oversees felony and misdemeanor areas. He said that he just loves his job, that he's truly been blessed as having an opportunity to be there. He thought that he'd be around for a couple of years. And he said then he woke up one morning and he'd been here for 30 years. So it really speaks to, I think, the dedication and to the work that they do. He said it feels pretty awesome to have seen 3 decades go by at one job. great attitude. You could just hear it in his voice. And again, listening to the people and knowing that the jobs that they do and the attitude that they have, you can just tell how much of an impression it would have on employees. So when you see Rick, all you folks from CSCD, and there's always a lot of you, tell him congratulations. Next is another one of the 30-year from CSCD. It's Carolyn Garza. And I saw Carolyn, so I know Carolyn's here. There she is. Started out in the JTPA program, which is the Job Training Partnership Act. After hearing 2 or 3 people say that, I figured I better figure out what those initials stand for. Started out in CSCD in 1983. Currently is a probation officer in the field out of CDC number 3. Memorable moments just indicated that there was a whole lot of changes that had occurred over the time that she'd been here. One of the things that they used to do is they'd have a lot of the probationers that would help with Mayfest. And she says, I remember very vividly the year the hailstorm hit Mayfest. She said that something that meant a whole lot to her is that when the JTPA program was going on, and I really wish that he had been able to stay around to hear this, is Judge Moncrief came out and gave the awards to the kids one time, and how much that meant to the kids and how she remembered that. She also apparently, when that program was going on, they'd have campouts, and she remembered going on some of those campouts. Now that, most of the time I have to it's like pulling teeth to get people to remember things. Carolyn, I appreciate you doing that. That's probably more of the 4 that I'll ever get from anybody else. When I asked her what she liked most, she said, there was a lot of ups and downs, but it was a great place to work. She said, there have been a lot of changes, but she said, I can remember back when we used to have the old spring meetings, and all the probation officers would come together and we'd talk, and it was a good opportunity for us to renew friendships. Again, she said the sense in that department is a real sense of friendship and support. She said, I love Fort Worth and Tarrant County, that as large as they are, that we still have that small town atmosphere, and that we really try to work together, not only with just the city of Fort Worth, but with really all the cities throughout the county. When I asked her about anything else, she said it's really been an honor to work with the county. And she told me at that time that she's retiring at the end of this month. So we're going to lose Carolyn, and we're going to miss you very, very much. I asked her if there was anything else, and as I think a lot of folks do, they think back and they talk about their families. And she talked about 2 kids. She has 2 kids, a daughter who I was reminded as she was growing up had cancer, I believe, and made it through that. And you can think, okay, this is one hurdle to overcome. That daughter graduated from A&M. We won't fault her for that. But is now with an HR company in Dallas, and she's extremely proud of her. And then she talked about her son. She said, he was a challenge. He dropped out of high school, but then went back and got his GED, and then went on first, I believe, to a junior college and then North Texas. And she said, I went to graduation at North Texas, and he graduated with honors. And he didn't tell me that, and so it kind of surprised me. And you can just feel the pride, coming, oozing over the telephone. And then she said, and he's now in the 2nd year of law school at UT Austin. And she said, a lot of that, she said, I'd like to take a little bit of credit for it, but she said, I'd like to also give a lot of credit to his grandparents and a lot of credit to his wife, because he said she has really pushed him to reach his potential. And so you, again, raised her family with Tarrant County. Tarrant County surrounded her and was with her as she went through some of the downs that would be, and that we all experience as we're going through. But again, I think it just speaks so highly of the department. But I'm sure at the same time that over this past 30 years that you've helped mentor and counsel and help somebody make it through some tough times. And we appreciate very, very much the 30 years you've given to Tarrant County. Next is Fanyu Hong with the tax office. She's another one that was going to try to make it to court. She had a doctor's appointment this morning, has been with the county again for 30 years. She worked, and she started off and is still working in the delinquent tax area. She indicated just how much she really has enjoyed working with Tarrant County. So as you see her today, please congratulate her and thank her for her 30 years of service. This was a big month. Again, 17 folks, and we're in the 30 years, and we ain't even got halfway through the 30 years yet. Our next individual is David Rockway, Precinct 2 Maintenance.
They may be here at the later event.
Okay. He was going to try to make it, but wasn't sure that he was going to be able to make it down here. Next is Linda Rush, 30 years, tax office.
I'd be interested if you actually got anything from David.
I'll go back to that.
Okay.
Linda has been with the county, again, for 30 years, started in the tax office as an extra, I guess is the way you started at that point in time, and then went full-time for 2 years. And then from there, she moved over to Tim Curry's office and spent about 5 years in that department, and then came back to the tax assessor collector's office in the accounting area and has been there ever since. When I asked her of her more memorable moments, again, it was all the changes that have occurred. She said, I remember when it would come up for your renewals that they were all on the same day. And so people would line up and literally they would circle the courthouse because everything was on the same day. She said she also remembered when they moved from the manual systems to the computerized systems. When I asked her what she liked most, again, it was she really enjoyed the people that she'd worked with. She said, you know, I've made some great friends over the 30 years that I've been with the county. And she said the other thing is that the county has given me the option to really be able to grow in my career. And that's something that meant a lot to her. Linda, we appreciate very much the 30 years you've given us. Now I'm going to have to go back and find David, so we're going to, I'll work on this.
He's not the most talkative person.
I actually got a little bit out of him, but it wasn't much. There was a couple of you folks out there that were a little hesitant to give out too much information this month. Our next individual is John Saunders, which is also...
Right, and he may also be out there this afternoon. There were 3 who graduated from high school together, came and applied at the county together, and they've been working together ever since.
Well, he wasn't much more talkative than the other guy was, I'll tell you that. But they did talk about the fact that they, when they started, they were on Matlock and Cooper, that they had combined with Precinct 1 for a while, and then in 1996 they separated, and they ranted and raved about the Kennedale location. Benefits, they loved that. They loved the 4-day work week, and again, the benefits from a standpoint of the retirement system. So it was, you're right, it was like pulling teeth to get too much out of those folks. And then the last of our 30-year employees is Jim Sinclair. And he is another one of the CSCDs. Now, Jim was supposed to be here, so I'm a little surprised that he's not here. Again, he was hired the same week as I believe Carolyn and Rick were. He is now the assistant director of CSCD. Started out as a probation officer over on East Lancaster, where the CPS headquarters is now. When I asked him about his more memorable moments, he said, you know, the first full unit, I guess, was established in his time frame, and then they actually began going out to the homes and visiting them in their homes, and I can imagine that created some of the more memorable moments that he wouldn't tell me about. He said also that when he started with the department, there was about 25 or 30 folks, and that now there's over 300. He loved the people he worked with. He has he said, I have just the utmost respect for the folks that he has a chance to work with on a day-to-day basis. I asked him if there was anything else, and he's another one of these individuals, and I, again, liken it a lot to Tim. He's not in here trying to get any recognition, is really flying under the radar, coming to work on a day-to-day basis to do their job, and that's what they're here for. They're not here for the recognition. And that can be said for so many of our Tarrant County employees. It's really humbling as I make these phone calls and have a chance to talk with these folks to hear the enthusiasm and the dedication and passion that they really have to serve the citizens of Tarrant County and the public that they come in contact with. I wish that Jim had been here today, but Jim's another one that, as you see him, congratulate him and thank him for the 30 years that he's given. That's our last employee of the day. At this point in time, we're going to recess a little bit. They've got cookie and drinks, I hope, at 504C back here. So, again, thank all of y'all. Let's give all these employees again a big hand. Be interesting if you can get one of these for Tarrant County.
Huh? Yeah, I'm sure somebody's got one.
Surely somebody has
It's
some.
I picked this up at the West Texas Convention. It's a ballot from 1960.
Nothing showing.
How complicated people made it vote. Read the top. Read that right there. Kind of small.
Glasses.
Okay,
In case we have multiple.
okay.
Okay. We've, that's an hour, a little over an hour's worth of work. We have other proclamations and resolutions on today's agenda. Our first one is the National Day of Prayer, and I will read that. I'll begin by reading that into the record. Whereas the National Day of Prayer was first declared in 1775 by the Continental Congress, who asked the colonies to unite in prayer to offer thanksgiving to God as they recognized the need for protection, direction, and wisdom in forming our nation, and looked to God alone as a source of all power, guidance, provision, and protection. Whereas the Congress, by Public Law 100-307, as amended and signed by President Ronald Reagan in 1988, designated that the National Day of Prayer be observed each year on the first Thursday in May across this nation. And whereas in times of war and uncertain times, and in times of peace and abundance, we have recognized the need to join together across the nation and pray. The example of faith and success afforded us by the prayers of Americans of the past will once again be joined by faith and prayers of various denominations across the nation for the National Day of Prayer. Each petition to God in prayer will reaffirm our commitment to keep the flame of prayer lit and pass the torch of a rich heritage and blessing to future generations. The 58th annual celebration theme proclaims prayer, America's hope. The scripture for this day, being Psalms 33:22, states, "May your unfailing love rest upon us, O Lord, even as we put our hope in you. And whereas we lift our voices in prayer, we especially remember to pray for those who are in authority and leadership in education, government, business, media, family, military, and the church, as they make decisions that affect our daily lives." 1 Timothy 2:1-2 reminds us, "First of all, then I admonish and urge that petitions, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be offered on behalf of all men, for kings and all who are in positions of authority or high responsibility, that we may pass a quiet and undisturbed life and a peaceable one in all godliness and reverence, and serious in every way. And whereas it remains God alone from which our help will come, as set forth in Hebrews 4:16, let us then fearlessly and confidently and boldly draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy for all our failures and find grace to help in good time for every need, coming just when we need it. And whereas in our nation and people from nations around the world are in need of unfailing hope today, we are encouraged by Psalms 37:7, "And now, Lord, what do I wait for and expect? My hope and expectations are in you." And whereas many investments have failed and trust has faded in many systems today, we are afforded a great privilege to invest our prayers in a God who does not fail those who put their trust in him. Deuteronomy 31:8, "The Lord is the one who goes ahead of you. He will be with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. Do not fear or dismay." Prayer offers an opportunity once again to witness the God of miracles and working on our behalf. One prayer from one heart at a time can heal a nation bringing protection, favor, and blessings of God. James 5:16 reminds us, confess to one another, therefore, your faults, and pray for one another that you may be healed and restored. The earnest, heartfelt, continued prayer of a righteous man makes tremendous power available. By recognizing the importance of prayer to our nation, may we all be inspired to continually exercise our opportunity to let our prayers be heard. For according to Luke 1:37, nothing is impossible with God. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do recognize May 7th, 2009 as the 58th Annual National Day of Prayer in Tarrant County. In witness whereof we have heretofore set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 5th day of May, 2009. I'll move its approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Please show Commissioner Brooks absent at the time. And we have present John Hatton, who is the local chapter of the National Day of Prayer Committee, will be present to receive this plaque. Come right down, Mr. Hatton. Make any comments that you
Bless you all, and thank you so much for all you do, and thank you for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fickus, I believe you have a congratulatory
I
resolution.
sure do, and this is for Dr. Jim McDermott. And Dr. McDermott has been selected by the National Council of Community Behavioral Health Care to receive the 2009 Lifetime Achievement Award, and I'd like to read the resolution, if you might. Whereas, for the past 19 years, Dr. Jim McDermott has guided mental health, mental retardation of Tarrant County in providing a full array of outpatient medical health services, as well as meeting the needs of the public safety net for citizens in Tarrant County and surrounding counties. And whereas, during his tenure as CEO of MHMR Tarrant County, he has worked tirelessly to secure the local, state, federal resources necessary to develop community-based alternatives for people with serious mental illnesses and mental retardation who would otherwise be regulated to high-risk, high-cost institutional care. Whereas, through Dr. McDermott's development and implementation of a comprehensive service delivery system, state officials frequently select Tarrant County Center as a pilot project, as a pilot site for new initiatives due to the center's reputation for innovation, quality of care, and outstanding accomplishments. And whereas Tarrant County has benefited tremendously from his inspirational leadership in creating a better future for people with mental illness and developmental disabilities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby congratulate Dr. Jim McDermott on being selected by the National Council for Community Behavioral Health Care to receive the 2009 Lifetime Achievement Award for staff leadership in recognition of his vision, dedication, and accomplishments in improving the quality of life of those members of our society who are most vulnerable. In witness hereof, we have hereunto set our hand and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 5th day of May, 2009. Dr. McDermott, if you'll come to the podium.
And you're moving approval.
And I'll move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Move for approval.
Yeah, you do. We keep reminding you.
A few words to say. Please feel free.
Well, how y'all doing?
Congratulations.
Thank you. I just want to say a couple of things today. These sort of recognitions are very nice and they're humbling, but I know and y'all know that our organization is the reason I get the recognition. Our organization's made, I think, a lot of strides over the last 20 or so years, and I think that there's a lot of things that contribute to it. Our families, our board, the peer groups that work with us, the consumers, But I got to tell you, this is a great county to do this kind of work in. We really are fortunate. I don't know that we appreciate it as much as we do. You've given me for 19 years the best boards anybody could possibly ever want to have. They've been committed, supported, and we operate with a commitment to the community. Rather than seeing ourselves, which we were 20 years ago, as an arm of the state, we see ourselves as a problem solver in this community and committed to this community. There's a lot of different organizations out there that share the same problems that we do. The criminal justice system, the education system, the homeless programs, public health, and you can go on and on. And we see ourselves as a partner in trying to solve those problems in our community with our community. And I just want to thank you as a group for supporting our organization over the years and for giving us such a great set of board members. So thank you very much. I really appreciate this honor.
Commissioner Fickus, I believe you have another proclamation?
Yes, this is a proclamation. I need an approval. We presented this last Thursday and over in Arlington.
Well, my notes from the administrator's office say that Commissioner Johnson's going to accept on behalf of older adults.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll go ahead and read the whole thing. And
Your notes might have said that, but it did not come from the administrator's
this is a
office.
proclamation for Older Americans Month.
Commissioner Johnson will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, did you say that?
No, sir, I did not. I'll talk to my staff, though. Just checking.
We have before you the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Your Honor, members of the court, we have 3 items yet to present to you in open session this morning. The first one concerns a resolution nominating one candidate to fill a vacancy within the Tarrant Appraisal District's Board of Directors. We talked about this last week. Commissioner Fickus had submitted one name to us. Commissioner Fickus, if you'd like to...
That's Tommy Brown. Tommy Brown's from North Richland Hills, former mayor, longtime resident of that particular area, and expressed an interest in serving on the board. So I have submitted his name. So I know there are probably others that also.
I do have a name. I do not have a confirmation, but I feel like it's forthcoming, so I would like to submit her name.
One, I must tell you that we, as a governmental body, are authorized to submit only one name.
One name?
One name.
Okay.
Who is it?
Dee Davy. She's in real estate in the South Arlington, Mansfield area.
Okay, we've got 2. She's from Arlington.
She's in precinct 2. She actually lives in Mansfield. She works in South Arlington, Mansfield. The schools kind of overlap. Mansfield School go down and come up into Arlington. Arlington schools go down into Mansfield because back in the 70s there was a lot of land flipping. Nobody ever thought that area would develop, and so everybody thought they wanted to be in the Arlington School District. So it's a very irregular configuration on the southern border for all of our school districts.
I also have a name. Jim Austin of Austin Realtors here in Fort Worth.
Jim's South Fort Worth, East Fort Worth, Southeast Fort Worth.
Lives in East Fort Worth, Southeast Fort Worth.
Okay, Marty, who was yours?
D-E-E, Davey, D-A-V-E-Y.
Okay, we have 3 names.
You guys want to add a name, and then we'll just draw one out of the hat?
No.
For the record and the press, no.
Okay, for the record, that was a joke.
Not that would do government.
So I guess at this point we need to...
Let me ask this. Harold is the one, Harold Patterson is
Yes.
the one we're replacing. Who appointed him? Was it?
It was, he came out of the Arlington. He was a former mayor of Arlington, and I'm not sure whether we ever
I believe it was the school district that actually had enough votes to get him on.
I was just wondering if we need to maybe follow in that direction and select someone from that area.
That southwest area.
We know if they have made them.
And I don't know the
Do not know
only
that.
candidate I know that's been mentioned is.
We do not know if they've made any.
I do know Tommy, but
I continue to try to add some diversity to that board. There's never been anyone of color to sit on that board, and it's high time.
Well, indeed, right now, who are the board members right now? I didn't tell you were going to ask that, but I'll bet you our tax assessor collector can help us with that.
She can. And we might mention that Ms. Price is an ex officio member of the board.
Yeah, I'm your voice, not a vote. Joe Potoff is chairman of the board. John Clanton is on the board. We had Harold.
Where's Joe from?
Joe is, Potoff is from, originally from Arlington, but then this last time he's from City of Fort Worth.
Okay.
John Molyneux is Fort Worth ISD, and John Eubanks is Grapevine, Colleyville, Northeast
So
region.
John Eubanks of Colleyville, John Clanton is from HEB
Also
area.
Colleyville, HEB area. John Molyneux is Fort Worth, and Potoff is Fort Worth and Arlington, kind of split. And to answer your question, Harold Patterson's votes came largely from the city and the school, Arlington ISD together.
Okay. So we have I guess since I think the Northeast has 2 of the 5 right now, I would lean toward either D, Davey, or Jim Austin. Either one would add a new look to the board.
where does Jim live, Roy?
East Fort Worth,
East Fort Worth.
almost to Arlington.
Yeah. Kind of southeast.
Now it's out in that area beyond, in the Cooks Lane area, East Fort Worth.
Well, I'll step out there and make a motion that we nominate D. Davey,
Yeah, I will second.
and we'll see if we get 3, and if we don't, then we'll go from there. Please vote.
Oh, wait a minute, stop. Don't vote yet.
Oh,
Well, the motion passes 3 to 2.
Okay.
D. Davey is our nominee.
Well, it's my understanding that's
I'm going
not an appointment. That is just our recommendation to the
Right, it
board. The
doesn't make-
board's actually going to nominate someone, is that?
They actually make the appointment. I believe we simply
supply names.
supply the name.
That's correct.
And everybody, all the taxing entities, I guess, have the ability to supply a name.
That's correct.
Okay.
I'm going to continue to try this and see if we can't get some sensitivity on this court.
Well, I can assure you, Roy, I could have supported a motion for Jim Austin, too.
Me too. I like Jim Austin.
Well,
I know Jim Austin.
And we've got sensitivity in that we're now putting a woman on there, and we're putting one that is at least in the southwest part of the area. Fort Worth, I believe, has 2 people on the board currently, as does
The Northeast.
Northeast from that standpoint. And that, I mean, I know and have a great deal of respect for Jim and for Tommy Brown. I do not know Dee, but, I believe that we do need to kind of try to put a little balance in there. And these 2, one's from Northeast and one's from Fort Worth. So,
I want to start looking in the northwest, too.
well, I thought that was probably going to be the next statement that was going to be coming out of there. So,
Your Honor, members of the court, if we could go to item 2 then, we're requesting that the court approve a letter of agreement with the Homeless Coalition of Tarrant County for research and data analysis to identify high-risk utilizers.
Move approval.
Second.
got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the court, if we could go to item 3, we're requesting that the court approve an exemption to, or an exception to the Tarrant County travel policy as relates to the Domestic Relations Office. Staff is recommending approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Human Resources, Ms. Glenn.
Move to receive and file personnel agenda.
Second.
Whoops. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Our second,
Where are they?
hello. Our second item is to request a revision to the table of organization for the Information Technology Department effective May 6th. Initially in the 2000 IT strategic plan, they had made a recommendation to discontinue the development of the new mainframe operations. And while they're about 5 years away from completing the elimination of the mainframe of the county's infrastructure, they would like to dissolve one of the units called the Enterprise System Organizational Unit, and they want to integrate that staff elsewhere into the county or into IT. The request will move several positions and keep their same pay grade. However, there'll be one pay grade, 91, that they would like to downgrade to a grade 90 to a senior database administrator. And they're requesting approval for this. There will actually be a cost savings in the general fund.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Public Health, Ms. Brewer.
Good
Morning.
We have 2 items, believe it or not, that are about something besides swine flu.
We'll come back to that in a little bit.
Yes, we will. We're asking for the court's approval to submit a grant application to the M&G Carter Foundation to support Tarrant County Public Health's breast and cervical cancer control program.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our second item is very similar. It's approval to submit a grant application to the Meadows Foundation to support our breast and cervical cancer program.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, and if I can just say, the reason we're doing this is because some of our funding has been cut, and the demand is even greater than it's ever been before, so we're trying to find a way to just maintain the service that we already have.
That funding at the state level or federal?
No, local.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Come on back up here for a second.
Yeah.
We cut something?
No.
Some of our foundations
Yes.
probably have cut back.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, the way I asked that question, it kind of implied by the answer that it might be us that cut it, and I didn't think we did.
No, I didn't mean to imply.
No, the way I asked the question, it
Oh,
left it,
okay.
kind of left it
All
unended,
right.
open-ended. So it was some of the local foundations and
Yes.
grants that we'd received from some of them in the past.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Beecham.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have 3 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is an award recommendation for RFQ number 2009-055, request for qualification for professional architectural engineering services for facilities management. We are seeking approval to utilize the 24 firms as shown in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Is this going to be done on a wheel, or,
David?
I
will say that
several architect firms that we're approving, but I'm assuming we're going to have some kind of a wheel.
3 years ago, we did have 19 firms. We increased that to 24, and David is prepared to answer your questions.
Commissioner, we usually go off the specific firm's expertise. For example, we've got a couple of firms that have expertise in jails. A couple of those firms are roofs. A couple of those firms do mechanical, electrical.
Okay, good.
And we pass the money around.
All right, thank you.
And several of these firms happen to be hub vendors also this year, about a third of them.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item is a bid award recommendation for bid number 2009-062, our annual contract for the purchase and service of fire extinguishers and hoses. Our recommendation will be to award on a per unit price basis, selecting as our primary vendor Pole Leaf Fire Extinguishers, as our secondary vendor Maynard Fire Equipment Incorporated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our last item is a bid award recommendation for RFP number 2009-063, annual contract for secure access control system maintenance. Recommendation would be to approve the primary and secondary vendors as shown in your court communique.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Transportation Services, looks like Ms. Green.
I'm going to present item number 1 for your consideration today. We're requesting the Commissioners Court to approve an agreement to contribute funds equal to 10% of the cost of right-of-way acquisition, $700,000, to the Texas Department of Transportation for the right-of-way acquisition of parcel 66 on State Highway 21 from FM 2499 to IH 635. This particular parcel is an indoor golf facility with pro shop and conference rooms and a fry kitchen, and that attributes for its high value.
What, the indoor, or the whole golf course indoor, or is it just the fry room?
I assume it's a training facility.
Kind of a training facility, do a lot of video stuff.
Well, if I did that, at least I wouldn't have to go so far to find my ball.
Oh, it's right next to the tee?
No, not very often. It's usually, depending on which side you're standing, I could hit you, Mr. Manius. It might be in the shin, but I could get you.
I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, and Ms. Lamb will
Ms.
present
Patterson
the
said
other
that's
items.
the way you've got to get it. You've got to get it in there right quick. You can't, Mr. Skinner.
Morning, members of the court. We have 2 items for you. We are requesting your approval of an interlocal agreement with the City of Grapevine. This is relating to improvements to the Euless Grapevine Road and Stonemeyers Parkway. This project will be funded out of Precinct 3 Commissioner discretionary bond money.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Brooks and Commissioner Johnson to approve Commissioner Fickus's money.
He seems quite preoccupied.
Any further discussion?
We have this spread out over the 3 years, correct?
Yes, Commissioner.
09, 10, 11.
Yes.
Okay.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. You mean I left you that much money to be able to do something like that?
Man, I spread it out, though.
Messed up on that.
I wouldn't give it to them all at one time.
The next item, we are requesting your approval of a resolution related to the Southwest and Northeast Rail Project.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Renee will cover the last item.
Ms. Lamb.
Thank you. I'm here to request that Commissioners Court approve an interlocal agreement with the City of Fort Worth for the installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of Joe B. Rushing and Campus Drive. It is an agreement with the City of Fort Worth. They will pay 75%. We pay 25%.
Move approval. Second. This is at the entrance to the resource connection, the new entrance.
Yes,
to the
sir.
Resource connection.
Needs to be one there. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Van Ravensway, I believe you have some items on the...
Yes, I would like to approve items K1, I always forget that part, item 8K1, A through F.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve items 8K1, A through F. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. appointments.
We've been trying to work on that parking lot for some time now. The school has been without, so we're very glad that we finally got that resolved.
Any appointments today? Then I'll ask your a motion for claims, including the addendum.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius?
We have several items this morning, Your Honor. The first concerns the continual update as relates to the H1N1 influenza. Ms. Brewer is here to address the court. Also, at the conclusion of her briefing, I'm going to ask that you approve an order which extends the emergency declaration.
First, let me thank you all for, I know what has been a very long week, and I know you spent a great deal of time over the weekend, both of you as well as the staff over there, in an effort to stay up with the samples that you've received and to get that. And we appreciate very much the work that you've done and the efforts that you've made in that regards.
Well, thank you very much, Judge. You don't know how much that means to us. This is day 16 of work, straight work for many of us. So,
I'd
thank
like
you.
to add to that despite the impressions of some journalists in this community, Tarrant County has been on top of this pandemic from the very beginning, and that members of our public health department have been involved in each and every decision and issuance of information regarding this event in our community. And thank you both for that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And I will just start with picking up on what you said. I just want to say that when Dr. Parker and I have personally called every school or ISD that's been involved in this event, and I just can't say enough about how receptive the principals and the superintendents and the chief operating officers and everybody that we've worked with have been when we call. I mean, after a while, they knew why we were calling. And it was just like, what do you recommend? What do I need to do? What do I need to get to you? And that has just made all the difference in the world in terms of how quickly we can get the contact information, how quickly they can get the word out to their parents and their students. So I just really want to commend all of the schools and the districts that we have been working with the past week. We really appreciate that. Moving on to some other items, we have 31 more tests run through our public health lab, and of those this morning, 4 were probable, and so we are doing the investigations on those now as well. You probably all woke up this morning and read a couple articles in the paper about what the decision makers at the federal level are thinking about in terms of how they're seeing this event unfold, and Dr. Parker is going to comment on those articles. Dr. Parker.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. My comments will be very brief because I know you have other business to attend to. I just wanted to say that the CDC has made statements that they are considering changing some of the guidance and the recommendations regarding school closures. The statements that have been made saying they're placing more responsibility on the persons and patients who are ill to stay home rather than closing additional schools at this time, depending on when the exposure was identified. I just wanted to assure you that we're waiting for that guidance from the CDC, and we will be taking that guidance into consideration when we make any more recommendations. But I do want to say that I support all of the difficult decisions that the school officials have had to make this week. I don't want them to think that because the guidance is dynamic and has changed that I don't support the decision or the recommendations that we made previously. I still stand by our recommendations and I support their decisions.
And again, we want to tell you how much we appreciate the job that you've done. I know you've been in communication with folks at the national, at the state, and also local area with regards to infection nurses, various hospitals, as well as just any number of folks. And I know you have taken extremely seriously your job and your recommendations, and we appreciate very much what you've done. I guess you said you had 4 new cases, probable cases, so that brings us to 109 as of this morning.
Did Lake Forest close their entire school system or just that one school?
It's my understanding that they closed the entire school system. And although we had recommended that one school close, I fully support the decision to close the entire district. The school officials there know their student population and their parent population better than I do. And when the decision was made, because there may possibly be other siblings who were symptomatic in other schools, that they closed the entire district as a result. At the time, that did fit the CDC guidance, and so I would stand by that decision that they made to do that. It's a very difficult decision to make. It was a proactive decision, and I support that decision.
We will be updating the statistics again this afternoon, and I think at that point in time, our samples, which are provided by the medical providers in the region, will top, or may have already topped, over 600. And again, we are not backlogged. I mean, our folks are getting in there. They worked all through the weekend to make sure that our samples, just as quickly as they can get those things tested, that they're tested. And for that, we are appreciative, because it really does give us a better idea of the samples that are being sent in, how many of those are probable. We're then sending that information to CDC, and it's taking CDC anywhere from, their timestamp is supposed to be 4 to 5 days. They're pushing that right now, and unless we've heard back from them, we've got, really since the 30th, we've not gotten any results back on the probables that we have sent to them. So hopefully we'll get reports back from them pretty soon with regards to, we've sent up 105, they've sent back 16. So as of yesterday afternoon, they had 89 that we were still waiting to hear on, and it sounds like we've identified 4 more, so they're up into the 90s now, where we're waiting to hear responses back from them. So
I'd like to point out something that has changed since last Tuesday. Last Tuesday, we were waiting for results from the CDC before treating the probables. That has changed, and I'd like Dr. Parker to comment on that.
Yes, sir. The guidance from the CDC has changed multiple times, both in regards to school closures and other things, as well as treatment for those who have been identified as symptomatic, and also those who have been exposed to those who are symptomatic. And those guidelines have changed. Originally, you were waiting for confirmation to treat and also to recommend closure of schools. Again, as we've just discussed, that has changed over the week, whereas now we are not waiting for confirmation from the CDC for treatment or to recommend closure of schools. But again, that guidance may change with information coming from the CDC, as well as in the beginning, it was recommended that both persons who are symptomatic and persons who may have been exposed be treated with medications. That guidance has since changed. While it's still recommended that persons who are symptomatic be treated, it is not recommended that everyone who is exposed to someone with symptoms be treated. Only those who are at high risk of complications from an influenza-like illness be treated. Similar to what is done for annual seasonal influenza. That is the direction, or that seems to be the direction that is now being proposed, that this issue be treated as a seasonal influenza rather than as we have been treating it in the past.
Currently,
Just to be clear, we are treating those probables now without waiting for results from the CTC, which may be 4 or 5 days at the least incoming.
Absolutely, and we have been, and in the past, we have been treating the probables as well. Now, the issue came about, the issue regarding confirmed and probables regarding treatment was very early on, and people were still treated as a probable early on last week. They were still being treated as they were being treated when they were probables, and usually that was done by their primary physician out in town.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your Honor, members of the court, we're requesting that the court extend the declaration of disaster regarding the H1N1 influenza, which the county judge issued on April 27, 2007, for a period of 7 days.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Just a few comments on the remaining briefing items. Members of the court, we do not have an update for you on item B. On item C, we're still looking at all the various funding sources for the stimulus package, and that effort is moving forward in an acceptable manner. On the legislative issues, Mr. Mendez has provided a memorandum in your background material, and I will attempt to answer any questions that you might have of that. If you have none, then on item E, we do not have any comment as it relates to that particular one. And, Your Honor, because of the time and the fact that we are going to be starting at 12 o'clock, I would suggest that we recess from here and state all the necessary statements to go into close, but we will recess first and go down to the front of the building.
Okay, at this time, then, we'll recess the Commissioners' Court meeting for the open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted under Sections 551, 107, 107, 207.
Didn't make it, did it?
Having returned from closed session and there being no business at this time, we are